Hello and welcome back. In this video, I'm going to be creating a PNGtuber that I'll hopefully use in the future if I start streaming on YouTube. First, I'll start with a single image that I like, then train a single LoHa on that image to capture a likeness of the character. Once that's done, I'll use the character LoHa with chibi-style LoRAs to create a PNGtuber avatar. Once the base design is finalized, I'll start generating different expressions for the face for use in veadotube Mini, which is the PNGtuber software I'll be using. Lastly, I'll show how to set up veadotube Mini in OBS. If any of the above things sounds interesting to you, let's get started. Before I get into the thick of it, these are the materials that you will need. As always, you'll need the stable Diffusion web UI for generation and the Koya SS GUI for training the character LoHa. In addition, you'll need veadotube Mini, which is a free software for controlling the states of your character. First off, we'll need a starting design for the PNGtuber. I'm going to go with this image that you've probably all seen in the recent videos on this channel, such as the Soviets singing short or channel trailer. I only have one portrait image of this avatar, but don't worry, you can actually make a LoRA out of one image, which is what I'm going to do. And just for reference, this is the final image that I'll be using as my dataset. I outpainted it a little bit more and then did some manual paint over. So let's head over to Koya SS. Here in the good old Koya SS GUI once again. Since I'm going to be using additional chibi style LoRAs later in this video, I'm going to train a LoHa on my dataset, which consists of one image using a clip skip to model or anime model. You might ask, why LoHa? One comment from the part 2 LoRA video mentioned that LoHa seemed to ignore or at least dampen style learning, and you could see from the experimental results in that same video that style wasn't really picked up too well. What I ended up trying on my own time was LoHa for characters or subjects, and LoHa impressed me very much with how it learned salient feature characteristics. Let's take a closer look at the dataset. So here is the image that I showed already, and next up are the captions, which are here. So I found that captioning like this is probably the best practice because you have the character token, KSK CHP TST in the front, followed by the type of class it is right after, so one boy. You can see that this resembles dreambooth training very much. After that, remember that we want to caption everything that we want changed. First off, this is a portrait, but hopefully in the future I want to try to get this LoHa to paint me a full body or at least a bust up picture. And then next up is looking at viewer in the future as well. Maybe I want this character to turn its head to the side or have a profile shot. I'm not too confident that this will work out well because I only have one image, but I want to caption these secondary or tertiary details just in case. And next up, I get rid of silver earrings and jewelry because I'm not really sold on this pierced ear look, so maybe I can try to change it by naming these captions here. Next up is closed mouth because I want this character to be able to smile or laugh or cry or whatever in the future, so better to be safe than sorry and get rid of that closed mouth. Lastly is pale purple background. I don't want this character to always be represented or juxtaposed with a purple background in the background. I'm not sure, once again, if this will help, but at least I can try to change that here. Next up, let's briefly go over the training settings. Let me open them up. Here we are. And make sure you're on LoHa, not locon. LoHa. Anyway, I'm using 10 repeats, distance adaptation, and cosine schedule with the pretty standard learning rates of 1 and half of that for text encoder. So let me just pull this over again just to make sure. If you look at the directory name, there's a 10 in front, so that means 10 repeats. Also, I pumped it up to 25 epochs because I wanted a bit more comparison. Also, one thing to take note of is that I'm using 16 for all the dimensions, including convolution, rank, and alpha. Lastly, the only major differences here are the adjustments of some of the advanced settings. So if we go to advanced configuration, first off, I have changed this to keep end tokens. So if we go to the captions, what this means is that these two tokens in front will always be preserved and everything else will be shuffled. So basically we can change the strength of each of these tags because it comes later. This is the third tag. It could be the fourth tag or the last tag in other iterations or other epochs. Also, I have added these two options, color augmentation and flip augmentation. In addition, I've also added noise offset. So noise offset and color augmentation helps generate more variation in hue and value. And I really desperately need that because I only have one image. So yeah, we want to try to vary this up as much as possible and not have it overfit. Once again, back in the stable diffusion web UI, and it's time to test the character LoHa right here to see whether or not it is actually functional, and if so, what epoch I should select for mixing with the chibi style LoRAs in the future. So you can see here, if there's no number following your LoHa model name, then this is the final LoHa epoch. So everything looks fine. If you have trouble generating prompts to use, just go ahead and mimic the prompts you have here. I just put one boy in front and I shuffle the tags a little bit to add some variation. So let's go ahead and generate. So this is the result I received from the generation. At first glance, you might think that this LoHa is broken because it's generating a pretty displeasing result in terms of anatomy. However, if we take a closer look, it looks pretty washed out despite my usage of the correct variational autoencoder, which means that I've probably gone past the correct epoch to use. In addition, you could say it's actually functional as the short black hair, yellow eyes, and general face complexion are preserved. The technical jacket the character was wearing in the dataset also seems to be faithfully recreated. So let's just bring the dataset image back over here and double check. So yeah, it does seem to be recreating everything the way I want it to be, but this isn't good enough. To more accurately gauge the performance of this character LoHa, I'm going to graph an XYZ grid using the prompt, search, and replace techniques I've shown in other videos. So let's get to it. Here is the output character grid graphing epoch against strength. You can see that it transitions out of the heavy anime style starting with epoch 8, which is this one. Before that, it was pretty childish. And on epoch 9 here, this is pretty in line with what I had in the dataset. For comparison purposes, here is the original dataset image. You can see that epoch 9 has a purplish hue baked in along with some extra contrast, courtesy of the color augmentation and noise offset options in the advanced configuration for training. And if we just take out this image and continue analyzing, everything after epochs 9 and 10 become a disaster. So I think epoch 9 is tentatively what I'm going to examine further in the web UI. It's time to check epoch 9 on batch generations across multiple seeds to verify if this is really the epoch to use alongside style LoRAs. So to do that, I'll change the batch count to maybe 5. And then batch size of 4. And before I start the generation, I'm going to make one small adjustment, which is going to settings and changing the clip skip to 2. So clip skip is 1 right now. I'll change it to 2. And the reason for this is that the chibi style LoRa's on their about page mentioned that they use clip skip 2 as a generation hyperparameter. So I want to simulate the same settings. This all looks fine to me, so I'm going to go ahead and generate. So these are the output generations. Let's go ahead and take a look. Yeah, sure, not bad. They seem to resemble the avatar or the original dataset quite well. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with epoch 9, so I think this is what I'm going to go with. Yep. Before we start doing chibi generations, I want to take a short break and talk about the basics of what a PNGtuber requires. So if you've ever designed software, you usually make something that fits the specification or meets the spec. I already know what kind of software I'll be using, and it's named Viado Mini. So let me go ahead and open that up here. If you click on this screen, you can see that there's 4 images, which means that you shuffle between 4 different variations of the same image. The first one is a default when the mouth is closed, so I'll just stop talking. You see that? And then you also notice that it was blinking as well. So you need a mouth closed, a mouth open, a closed mouth and closed eyes, and lastly an open mouth and closed eyes. You can also have other default states. I think this is what these side squares are, but maybe I'll explore that later. Now that we know that we need 4 variations of one character, we can start choosing the look of the PNGtuber we want. So PNGtubers are generally more stylized chibis, so I just type in chibi here on Civet AI and see what appeals to me. I've already tried a few, like this Maple Story, Waven, Genshin, all of these. And the one that I actually enjoyed the most was this one called Komawata Haruka Chibi Artstyle LoRA. The reason why I chose this one is because it seems to give me full body, and I want to have a full body chibi. First, let's try out the chibi style LoRA without the character LoHa to see what we're dealing with. Okay, so we have this girl wearing a white jacket. Let's go again just in case. It looks like it's following the prompt pretty well. And as the character LoHa is not in here, you can see that there's no black hair or yellow eyes. So let's try it with the character LoHa now. I've loaded in the LoRAs that I'm going to use. So as I mentioned, the Komawata Haruka LoRA, and then my own character LoHa right here. So I'll just go ahead and do one generation just to see what I'm going to get. So this is the first generation, and you can see that the hair is pretty consistent, and the eyes should be yellow, but they're red, which is fine. And the jacket is white, and it's filled in with its own details, which is nice. I'll do another generation just in case. So this is the second generation, and yeah, as you can see, the white shirt slash jacket is pretty consistent. This time it has the correct hair and eye color, and I like the look of it. So I'm going to go ahead and pump up the batch count and batch size so I can go through and see what I like. The batch generation has finished, so we can go ahead and take a look at them, maybe individually. Okay, not bad. Cool, cool. Oh, I like this one, but yeah, we'll see. You can see generally that the features are being preserved quite well, the hairstyle and the eyes, as well as the white shirt jacket. And in some cases, such as this one, you can see that the rest of the jacket and clothes are being filled in with latent noise and then dictated by whatever heuristic the noise wants to follow. So yeah, I think our LoHa LoRa combination is working pretty well. And I'll just keep generating until I find something that I like. Oh, that one was pretty cute. Here are some of the generations I've done already. As you can see, they are all generally consistent in terms of feature characteristics. So I'm pretty impressed with LoHa for characters so far. After a few attempts, I found a bust shot that I liked, which is this one. However, I want the clothes here to resemble the dataset clothes more, so I'm going to take this generation and go to extra, and yeah, the variation seed is already here, and I'll just vary it a little bit by 0.1 and turn up the batch count to maybe 4 and batch size of 5, so I can get new generations that are similar to this but hopefully have a different outfit. So let's go. So the generations have finished and I have this nice grid giving me an overview of what's here. So you can see that in some of the clothes, the red trim has gone away. So maybe here, yeah, this is a good example. If you compare with others, there's a bit of red in them, like this one, but in this one, it's gone. So I think I'm going to take one of these and use it as my final bust shot. This is the base image that I chose from all of the output variations of the same seed. I slowly layered masked out pieces from other seeds on top, like so. More. Change the hair. Added some of that trim. And then lastly, I have this adjustments folder or adjustments group on top, which makes some small anatomical changes. So yeah, this is tentatively what I'm going to go with. Also, the head is a little too big still, but I'm going to composite this bust shot on top of a body before I make any changes. That being said, this is the full body image that I also found during the generation process. In the same vein, I also layered changes on top like so. So the arm anatomy was off a little bit. It was too far apart from the body. And then I baked that down a little bit more, so like so. And then what I did was I added a little bit more of a finger here on the side, like so. And then brought in some line art on that. After making some of these miniature fixes, I duplicated a merge down smart object of the bust shot just to see where I'm at compositionally. So here it is. And in addition, at this point, I like to draw attention to the fact that I'm still working on a small pixel resolution at around 640 by 936 pixels. If you've watched my other videos, then you know that I like to work at thumbnail size or low res for most of the process before upscaling for inpainting or finishing touches. Now I'm going to start out painting the full body image because I don't have enough resolution on the canvas. So if I recall, my width is 640 and my height is 936. And I think I'm going to go with DPM, yeah, and then 35. Also make sure you're on the inpainting model. Now we go over to this Outpainting Mark II, and let's outpaint upwards first. So maybe 128 pixels is fine, and I'll denoise maybe 0.9, like so. I'm going to do a batch count of 4 and 2. So something like that. Okay. The output is finished. So let's go ahead and take a look. We don't really need perfection. We just need resolution. So I think this one is fine. Yeah, the third one is okay. We can always just get rid of these lines using the spot healing brush. So now I'm going to outpaint downwards because I want some extra resolution. So send it back to inpaint like so, and then make sure you're painting downwards like so. And I think these look fine. And let's go again. Outpainting downwards has finished, so let's take a look at the grid. And yeah, it seems that it's doing fine. Once again, let's just pick something that is simple and easy to fix. I think I like this one. Yeah, so actually no, I don't like that one. This one is better. The other one had incorrect finishing of the shoe right here. So yes, this one's much better. I'm also going to outpaint this image on the top and probably the bottom because I need some more extra room to work with. So once again, outpainting mark 2. Let's go up first. And yeah. So the generation has finished, and I think I'm going to take the 5th one into Photoshop. So this one, it looks the easiest to fix using the content aware tool or the spot healing brush. This is where I am now for the standing pose and also for the bust up pose. So you can see that they're still pretty low res, but I'm going to go ahead and upscale both of these now. First up is the body, so this one, I'll resize it by 3 times, but I'll do this twice. So this one, balanced and something like that. Okay, and now I'm going to send this to extras again and then resize it by 2. So I should get 6 times the original resolution. Just to show what it looks like, this is the upscaled version and it's around 3840 by 7296 pixels. Next up is the bust shot. So this one, for this I'll just go with a pretty standard 4 times. And yeah, this should be fine. The reason why I made the resolution so high is because I'll be copying over this very detailed bust shot over to this body, like so. And now you can see most of the detail is being retained even if we zoom in. So if we copied over this thing when it was at a low resolution, we would have lost too much detail. So we don't want that to happen. Next up, we want to separate this head from the background. So this is pretty simple. Just go over here to where magic wand tool is. You should have something called the object selection tool and just select everything on that smart object. And it's made a selection for us. We'll just go ahead and mask it. And it's more or less pretty clean, but there's some errors up here. Bottom layer is leaking a lot, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the parts that I don't like. So just select like so. And I'll use the content aware fill. So edit, content aware fill. I just want to get rid of the noise. Okay. And now for the time being, this is what it looks like. And I'm going to clean it up a little bit more. It's time to start manipulating this bust shot so it fits onto the body of this standing figure. So I'm using a smart object right now, and you can't transform smart objects. So what you do is you duplicate it, Control J or Alt and drag it, and then create a new layer, like so. And basically what you do next is you just bake everything down into this layer, bottom layer, by merging with Control E. And there we go. So if I hide everything, you can see that I have a flattened image like so, or a rasterized image. This is what I had initially, and after bashing in some pieces, like so, and then adjusting it, this is what I have now. What I'm going to do is take this back into Stable Diffusion and inpaint all the messy areas so it becomes more seamless. I've masked out all the problem areas I could find, and I'll just go ahead and do one generation to see if I'm getting what I want. Okay, this generally seems to follow what I want, so I'll just do a batch generation with this. This is about where I am right now, and I'm already pretty happy with it. However, one thing I want to do is to take a downscaled version of this, or just put this into image to image and then denoise it, just to tighten it up a little bit. So I have the original prompt that I used loaded in. I used this when I was searching for the full body and the chibi face. Next, I'll bring in the image. This is the high resolution image, but I want to generate just a low res version, so it's a fourth of it, 960 by 1624, pretty close to Ultra HD resolutions. Denoising at 0.15 for now, and I'm going to use control net, so I'll need that same image here. I think I'm going to use depth. Let's make sure this is in. Okay. Bring down the weight. So this is what one generation looks like at 0.15. So you can see that nothing has really changed, but it's brought together the details a little bit more. So there's more harmony now. So here are the outputs. Just go through and see what there is. See, there's just very subtle changes in each one. Back in Photoshop now. And this is my original stitched together head and body. And this is the image to image denoised upscale. So if you want to do an A/B test, old, new, old, new, old, new. So there's a few things that I don't like about the image to image version is that it makes the face look a lot worse. So I'm just going to mask that out. And yeah, so I'll just add a white mask and then select everything up here and then fill it with black, like so. So if I toggle off this layer, only the body is changing. See? Great. Now we're at the phase of generating different facial expressions. So first off, we want to create a new selection for the face only and then turn that into a smart object. So get the rectangle marquee tool and shift drag. It doesn't matter what resolution you get as long as it's a square. So just drag mine out. 2128 sounds good. Okay, so I have that. And make sure my head is in it and then Control J so it duplicates that selection. Now that I have this selection, what I can do is I can convert it to a smart object. So right click, convert to smart object. Okay, what does that mean? So if I double click on this layer, I go here and it opens up a new thing. And I can add layers on top of this. So if I add a new layer and then draw like a blue line here, save it, and then go back here, you can see that the blue line is all over the face. So whatever changes that happen on the smart object are duplicated here. So you can think of this as a placeholder or variable. So knowing that, I'm just going to be making changes in this smart object, and then the changes will be reflected on here. So let's get to it. So let me drag in my face. And please recall that for Veado Mini, you need 4 different unique expressions, which are closed mouth with open eyes, open mouth with open eyes, closed mouth with closed eyes, and open mouth with closed eyes. So first, I'll tackle the closed and open mouth portion. Right now, the mouth is in a pretty neutral expression, so I'm going to make it an open mouth first. So just in Paint or create a mask around the mouth like so, and type open mouth. I have my denoising around 0.75 and only mask and original. So let me go ahead and see what this gives me. Okay, so it's not really working that well. Also, I think I'm going to need to have a chibi style in here because this looks kind of creepy. So I modified the prompt slightly by bringing in the original Komawata Haruka style LoRA and then prompting it using chibi. So hopefully I'll get a more cartoonish looking face. I did some batch generations and I was pretty happy with some of the results that I got. The mouth isn't perfectly aligned that well, so I'll either have to move them in Photoshop or... Actually, this one's pretty good. Yeah, we'll see. It's time to create the closed mouth version now, so I just changed the prompt to have closed mouth. And I'll take out this talking and replace it with smile. I'll go ahead and generate one first to see if I'm on the right track. Interesting, but yes, this is generally what I'm looking for. So I found the closed mouth that I want to use. It's this one. It's very playful and not too feminine. So open mouth, closed mouth. Next up, I'll just have to change the eyes so they're closed. I did an initial test and I got this for closed eyes. It's not perfect, but I finished up making the closed eyes so it looks something like this. Not too anatomically accurate because the tarsal plate actually goes down on the eye and the bottom eyelid doesn't move up, so that much. So anyway, that's what it looks like, and I want this to be applied globally. So I'll just mask off these eyes. What I mean is that this won't affect everything. So if I have this mask disabled and I turn this off, the open mouth doesn't show. But if I have this mask enabled now, the open mouth shows. So I have everything I need now, which is great. Now that we have everything we need to start baking down all our layers. So you're going to end up having 4 images, one for each expression. Let me open up a new layer and merge everything in. We don't really want to have the background left over. So on this new flattened layer, I'm just going to go to properties and click on remove background. It's doing its thing. Okay, and then it's done, but it's not perfect. So you can see that the background removal is not perfect. What you can do is go to select, make sure you have your mask selected first, then go to select and mask. Now you have this new window and go to the quick selection tool. If you want to add stuff back, use the plus button and just paint over where the detail is lost. If you're using veadotube mini like me, your image has to be a square 2048 by 2048 or smaller image. So I aligned my images to that format and I have my 4 different states here. Lastly, I added some adjustment layers to brighten up the image. Lastly, I've set this up in veadotube mini so you guys can see what it looks like. So when I'm talking, the mouth is opening, and when I'm silent, so when I'm silent, nothing's happening, and I assume the blinking is random. So if I talk, then it jumps, and when I'm not talking, when you're not talking, you can just be moving like that, like so. It's kind of distracting, I would say, but whatever you like. I prefer like very minimalist, so I don't know yet. I can just turn this off. Yeah, very cool. Okay, so lastly, if you want to set this up for your stream or whatever, you have this image here that's moving and transitioning, but you also have this green screen behind it. So we're going to have to chroma key that out. I'll show you guys how to do that. I'm going to use OBS to set up my PNGtuber. I've already created a new scene here in the bottom left called scene 3, and there's one display capture source right now, which is my monitor. So to add your Veado mini tube window, click on this plus sign, click on window capture, create new, and go in here and pick Veado mini. And make sure it's Windows 10 and up for capture method. And then click on OK. So now you see this image or this source. Control D to center it, and you can just pull it up like that. Next up, you want to right click on your window capture 30 and then go to filters. And to get rid of the green screen, it's called a chroma key filter. So just click on chroma key filter and OK. And I'll close that. I'll hide the display capture, Control D to move this to the center. And that's basically it. You now have this talking avatar that hopefully is something you like. So yeah, just position it wherever you want. I'll just keep it here for now. And yeah, that's it. Thank you all for watching. And I'll see you next time. Bye.